Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss how to install Windows 11 on Proxmox. So before we go to installing Windows on Proxmox, we should know what is Proxmox. Proxmox is a hypervisor layer running on top of Debian Linux with a modified Ubuntu kernel. So it basically gives access to the system resources according to the needs of the specific VM or container. Proxmox can run multiple operating systems like Linux and Windows. You may relate it to like running virtual machines on a Windows host on top of VMware or VirtualBox, as it's very similar to that concept. So for this to work properly, you need to have Proxmox set up properly and have the system BIOS settings properly configured. Like you should have enabled Virtual Direct IO and virtualization technology. So Proxmox also has a web-based management interface which you can access it through a web browser from any system, and we can deploy either operating systems or containers which are in the form of LXC containers. So this was just a basic introduction to Proxmox. Mainly we are going to discuss how to install Windows on Proxmox. So there are some challenges in installing Windows on Proxmox. As Proxmox runs virtual machines, so it has to emulate most of the things. So this causes a challenge as it is emulating a certain type of device, so it needs specific drivers for the same. So nowadays most Linux distributions have drivers for that already, but for Windows that wasn't needed, so we need to install separate drivers for the same. So these are called VirtIO drivers. So as Windows doesn't contain the drivers for the emulated devices such as drives and networking and ballooning of memory, so we need to install the drivers for the same. So thus we need VirtIO drivers. So this driver would support in running emulated hardware on our virtual machine, such as SCSI drives which are not supported in Windows by default, and networking along with expandable memory which is called ballooning of memory. So there are some requirements which need to be fulfilled before installing Windows 11 on Proxmox. So you would need VirtIO drivers, which would be a disk file or an ISO file, and you would be mounting that to your virtual machine. So I will show you later. And we would also need Windows 11 ISO. So you can also download that from the Microsoft official page, but I would provide a link also in the description below. So you would also need a Proxmox virtual environment or Proxmox hypervisor running and configured properly on a host machine. So once you have fulfilled all of these requirements, you can go ahead to the next step. So these are some of the common errors that I have listed above. So if you have no drive detected during the Windows install, then the VirtIO drivers would be missing or not configured properly. So I will show you that in the video. Also, if there is no network connection detected, then also it would be the issue of VirtIO drivers or a misconfiguration in the Proxmox networking tab. You can go for other emulated devices like Intel E1000 or other network card which Windows has drivers for by default, but it would limit your performance of the networking. Same case goes for your hard drive also. as VirtIO SCSI is the best option for performance oriented scenarios. So to run Windows installation on Proxmox, you need to first open the web interface of your Proxmox server. So you go ahead and do that. Once you are in the interface, you can go ahead and select your host machine on which Proxmox is running. So for example, I have 3 machines running here. So I will select just one of them, then click on it, then go to summary and let it load. So here you can see how much resources I can dedicate to this machine. So you can see like how many cores and how many RAM usage and how many hard disk space I can dedicate for backups and for storing ISO images. So once I am here in this one, I will just expand this and then go to local. So this is the storage of the Proxmox. Like local LVM stores the virtual machines data and local stores the backups and the ISO files which we run on the server. So this is different for each server, and each server has both local and local LVM, which happens when you are installing the Proxmox server. So go to ISO, and here you can either upload the ISOs or just download from the URL by clicking here. So here you will enter the URL of the ISO. First you will download VirtIO Drivers by going to this link on Proxmox, and here in the Proxmox wiki page, here you can see download the latest table. So just click on it and it will give a pop-up for download, or you can just right click and copy this link, go back to the Proxmox server web page and paste this URL here, then click on query URL, so it will verify the URL and get the parameters from it. So as you can see, it has obtained the VirtIO drivers and it can download from the link now. So now just click on download and it will start downloading. So as you can see, it has started downloading the ISO. Similarly for Windows also you can do the same thing. So similarly you can download the Windows 11 ISO also from the web page of Microsoft. So you can check here, there are 3 ways, but for downloading the ISO you can go to here, select this Windows 11 multi edition ISO and just click on download. It will validate your request, and now you can see here it's asking the product language. Just choose your language. And now here is the link for the download. Now as this say, this link is only valid for 24 hours. So just copy it and go to your Proxmox web interface. As you can see, the VirtIO drivers have been downloaded successfully now. So just close it. Now again click on download from URL, paste this URL and query. So as you can see, it has again obtained and verified the file name and other parameters automatically by querying the URL. Now just click on download and it should start downloading now. So as you can see here, the Windows ISO is also downloaded now, and once you click on close here, you can see the Windows ISO and the VirtIO drivers. So now you can go to your host machine name, click on it, click here on create VM, click on the node and select yours. For me there are 3 nodes, but I am selecting the first one. So here just assign a VM ID and make sure that whichever ID you assign first gets booted in that priority. It starts from 100, so just make sure that you run the most essential services first. Like for example, if you are running a TrueNAS VM or an Open Media Vault server, so for Windows we can give priority later on, so we will give something like 129. Here you will just give any name, so I will give Windows 11. So underscores are not allowed, so I will just give like this. And here you can check start at boot if you want it to run always. Now here you can continue with this. Okay, this is clashing because I have already running. So this VM ID shouldn't be same with any other VM ID. So just continue here. Here you can see this is the local storage. So the storage is divided into 2 parts, namely local and local -lvm. So local stores ISOs and images which you want to boot from, and local -lvm stores the virtual hard disks. So here you will select the Windows 11 ISO and select the guest OS, and as you can see here it's showing the pop-up as add additional drive for VirtIO drivers. So just click on it and select the VirtIO drivers ISO here. Now click on next. Now for Windows 11 you need to make sure that you are running a Q35 machine. So this is the modern emulation layer, so just click on it, select the UEFI BIOS, add the TPM as Windows 11 requires TPM, and add EFI storage. For this one you need to tick this if you want to use Microsoft Secure Boot. So just leave this disabled for now, there is no need for that, but make sure EFI disk is checked. Also enable QEMU agent as we will install that driver also, so it will help to reboot and shutting down the machine. And graphic card you can leave it as it is for now, but later on you can select VirtIO-GPU. So just leave it default for now. Now click on next. Now here you are creating a hard disk for Windows installation, so you can give this disk space here. So I will give just 50 GB. So you can keep the cache as default for now, or you can even go to write back, so it would enhance your performance of the Windows VM. Here you can click on discard for SSD, but leave it default for now, no problem. Here you can also add additional hard disk if you want, but we are just adding one hard disk. Now click on next, and here you can specify which type of CPU should be emulated, or you can go for host CPU also. So it's best to go for host CPU. Now here you can select the number of cores you want to allocate. So I am going to allocate 2 cores only. So it will also include the hyper-threaded cores, so that are also a virtual core, so that are also going to be included in that. So if you have like a 4-core 8-thread processor, so you can go up to 8 cores in the Proxmox hypervisor. So now here we will continue. for Windows VM you need to give minimum of 4 GB of RAM. So here we are giving 4 GB of RAM. Now here, as you can see in advanced, there is a ballooning device. So by using this you can allocate more RAM to Windows if it needs later on, but here you have to specify the minimum memory which is guaranteed to be there. So for example, if some of your workloads require 10 or 12 GB of RAM or more, you can specify maximum memory here as 12 GB or 10 GB, and then Proxmox hypervisor will dynamically allocate the RAM once it's needed and frees it up and removes it from the VM once it's not needed. So this way you can use the ballooning device, but we need to install the VirtIO drivers first for that to work correctly. So just disable it for now. Click on next. So now here are the networking parameters. Here you have to select the network bridge. So this is the default settings. So I'm using a VLAN, so I have configured Proxmox hypervisor also to run VLANs, and I can use them in virtual machines also. So I will use VLAN 40 and I'm using VirtIO drivers. So remember, this will not work by default. So as Windows 11 installation requires networking on first install, you can select any other model also for that, but I will just bypass that internet connection need and I will show you also how to do the same. Just select VirtIO for now and click on next. So this is confirmed and you can finish it for now. So our virtual machine task is done. Now you can go to your virtual machine, select it and go to summary. So as you can see, it is not running now. Now you can just see all the parameters listed here, and in options you can see the boot order also, in which order it will boot. So on first boot, as there is nothing on the hard disk, so it will go to the disk installation media, which is the first one. So here it will try to boot from VirtIO ISO. So if that is the case, just reorder it and drag it below. So just leave it like that and click on OK. Now you can go to console and try to start the virtual machine. So now it will ask to press any key. So just do it. So as you can see, just press any key. This pop-up is for booting into the ISO of the Windows 11. So now it's loading. So as you can see, this Windows setup screen has appeared. So now you just select the language, time and currency format and the keyboard method. So I will just go with the defaults and now click on install now. Now just click on I don't have a product key. You can select any version of Windows because it is a multiple version ISO. So I am going to select Windows 11 Pro. Agree to the terms and conditions. Click on custom. Now as you can see here, the Windows couldn't find any drives to install the Windows on. So just click on load driver. Then click on browse. Then go to VirtIO Windows, this CD drive, expand it. Go to AMD 64. Then select your version of Windows Like for me it's Windows 11, so I will click there and click on OK. Now you can see this driver is appearing here of Red Hat VirtIO SCSI pass-through. So this is the driver through which Windows will detect the hard disk. So just install it. So as you can see, our drive has appeared. Click on new, click on apply, click OK. So as you can see now, the Windows has created 3 partitions. Our drive 0 partition 3 is the main partition and rest is for system partitions and EFI. So just click on drive 0 partition 3 and click on next. So now the process of installation of Windows has begun. Just wait for it to complete. Now as you can see, once the Windows installation is complete, it will prompt you to restart it, or it will automatically restart. So this time Windows will automatically boot onto the Windows installed on the hard disk. So just wait for it to boot now. So after the devices get set up and after the getting ready message pops up, it will again reboot. So as you can see, the pop-up has arrived to select our country or region. Go ahead and do that. Now it is asking for keyboard layout. Select yours. Skip the second keyboard layout. Now as you can see, it is asking for internet, but as the drivers are not set up for the internet, so we will just bypass the internet connection required for setting up the Windows. So just press Shift plus F10. Now our command prompt will open. Now type OOBE / bypass NRO. So what this command do? So this command basically bypasses the requirement for having internet connection in Windows 11, as Windows 11 tries to make you sign up with a Microsoft account. So now it reboots again, and this time it will give an option to set up without the internet connection. So as you can see now, here you can see I don't have internet. Just click on it and continue with limited setup. So now as you can see, it is not asking you to get connected to the internet first. So now enter any name, enter a password, confirm it again, answer security questions. So after all this, just wait for it to complete setup. So now as you can see, we have booted into Windows and the setup is complete. So your Windows installation is now complete. So now we have to install the rest of the drivers. So we will go to the File Explorer and select our CD drive of VirtIO Drivers, and here we will install VirtIO-Win-GT-X64. So this is the installation of drivers. So accept the terms. Next, install and click on yes. Now as you can see, the network here is working and the drivers have finished installing. So we have to install the guest agent also for reboot and shutdown commands to work properly from Proxmox. Now select VirtIO-Win-Guest-Tools. Now double click it and install. Now agree to the terms and let it install. So after you have done these two things, your Windows installation is now complete. So now your Windows installation is running successfully and you can install any RDP program or any remote desktop program to access it remotely. For example, you can use Parsec or even Windows Microsoft RDP. Also remember, there is no GPU added in this system, so every encoding will be done in x264, which will eat up your CPU resources. So just keep that in mind while choosing the remote desktop. So I will show GPU pass-through in the next video of mine, so stay tuned for that. Now to verify if the guest agent is successfully installed or not, just go to summary and check for the IP listed here. So if it is listing the IP addresses, then the guest agent is successfully installed. Now to access it remotely, you can install Parsec on it. So just go to the browser and type Parsec. Now you can go to the official website and download it. Download for Windows. And once it's downloaded, just open it. Click on yes. Now this is asking for virtual display driver. So if you want to run it in headless mode or you want to remove this console display, then you can install the virtual display adapter, but still it will consume the resources of the CPU if there is no GPU to encode the stream. So click on next. Now here you can select either per user or shared, but as you can see here, it's saying you cannot start Parsec until you have logged into Windows. So it will defeat your purpose for installing the Parsec, which is to remotely access the system. So until you won't have logged in to the system, the Parsec service won't start then. So just select on shared, and then remember, like, Parsec will run on all users even without logging in to the system. So just keep that in mind for security purposes. Now click on next. Let it install. As you can see, the installation is completed. Now it's asking for your credentials. Now click on login. Now once you are verified, you can log in again. So now your system is ready to host the connection. So everything is done for now. You just minimize it. Also, you can fine tweak the parameters of Proxmox host. So you can go into settings and click on host and change the settings here for whatever you like. Like for example, you can change the FPS or the display shared to you or how the audio works. But remember, if you increase the FPS too much, it will consume more resources as it is using CPU encoding for now. So you can even limit it to 30 to save on resources. So that's all. Now as you can see here, it is hosting and you can copy the URL and visit it from any other system. Now you can go to your main system and visit this URL and it should work. So as you can see, the resolution of this virtual machine is not proper. So to increase it, you can go into settings and then increase the resolution from there. But if you are using the console mode, this won't work. So for adjusting the resolution of the displays, you need to use the Spice display mode in the hardware options. So to do that, first go into the hardware panel of your virtual machine and select the display. Now under the displays, select Spice display as the option and click on OK. Now just stop your virtual machine or just reboot it again to make the changes effective. Now go to console. As you can see, it has booted again and you have to log in. And here you can see the Spice button. So this will give you the Spice config file, for which you have to download a Spice viewer software to access it. So as you can see here you can set the resolution according to your need once you have Spice enabled. So now I have set the resolution to 1080p. So now you can close it. So if you have any issue with your cursor, just go to options and select use tablet for pointer and just disable it and again enable it and start the machine. So as you can see now, the cursor is working fine now. So this way you can resolve your cursor issues. So this was all regarding the installation of Windows 11 on a Proxmox hypervisor. So thank you for watching, and if you have any comments or suggestions, drop them down below.